You know, I got on Facebook and social media years ago because of our nonprofit, thinking that I wanted to use it as free advertising to let people know what we're doing in the community, to highlight the stories that I've done with some of my Facebook shows. It's just kind of like I could put it down and pick it up when I wanted to do a posting. And so it was a gradual thing. And so it got to the point where my wife was making comments like, you know, you're always on your phone. And I'm like, but babe, it's for a business, you know, there's good things that we're doing here. And, but it started to become more of wanting to be accepted and checking my posts to see who liked it, what were the comments. And I started to feel, this was a slow process, started to feel like I was allowing other people to define who I was based on what I do. And that's old for me. Quite frankly, that's how I got into my drug addiction, was hanging with people, wanting to be accepted, compromising some things, and ended up going down a road of addiction. And in a lot of ways, I've found out through this experiment that we did, you know, the tech stuff can be an addiction. I equate it much like my addiction to drugs and alcohol, okay? And that was, I was a social user of social media the first 2 or 3 years. I could take it or leave it. It didn't control my life. I didn't feel controlled by it. And then it was a slow process, but then, like I said, when I left that job and I had more time and I justified by doing it for a nonprofit, it was just like with any addiction. It doesn't just, you know, I didn't just smoke weed and then have a crack pipe in my mouth the next day. That didn't happen. It was a period of like 7, 8 years and that happened. So much like social media, I started relying more on it for my ego, for my sense of purpose. And ultimately what I found out, Soji, was this, that I cared more about what you thought than what God thought. And I used to think that I was a victim to this, right? But this was a conscious decision that I made. I cared more about what you thought of me, and I allowed you to define me. And in a way, I lost sight of how God's defined me. So as a result, I would be jacked around when somebody had something negative to say about me. I'm like, what, you're calling me a racist? It just seemed like whenever I would share something that was controversial and didn't want to be talked about, and I would bring up a topic. If I didn't go along with the thinking of somebody, then it seemed easy to kind of label me. And most of these folks don't even know me. And I started to feel like in an addiction. I was like, how did I get here? How do I get to where I'm waking up and looking at my phone, or I'm watching?
When you looked at your phone, what were you looking for?
Just anybody reaching out, you know, just like in between, during a football game, at commercial, I would reach for my phone right away, scroll. What am I looking for? I don't know.
And where were you doing this? Just at home?
At home, you know, if I'm at the office and there's some free time, you know, whenever I had any downtime, go to the phone, just scroll. It's not that I'm looking for anything specifically, but I'm looking to see, you know, if anybody made comments on my postings, who liked my postings, what are other people posting, and I started, you know, it's a rabbit hole. Right. You know, like I like MMA, okay? So all I had to do was see a clip of the top 10 knockouts. Oh, you know, I'm gonna check that out. And when that video's over, then 3 seconds, and it's like a rabbit hole. Whenever the phone would vibrate or go off, I needed to check it immediately. To me, that's like when I was using, I have friends, there's nothing wrong with alcohol. There's nothing wrong with alcohol. In me, there is, but I have friends who can have a couple beers or a couple glasses of wine or a couple drinks or whatever and stop and socially use and be responsible and not let it control their life. Social media, I don't believe there's anything wrong with that. I'm not in the camp where it's like, oh, it's from the devil. No, it's useful. But I found it started becoming a part of my life more than I wanted.
In what way?
It was time consuming. I was looking for it for validation.
In terms of what? Validate?
That what I'm doing is important. You know, if I'm going to be honest, that's what it was about. It was about, I know what I'm doing is important, but boy, it feels good to have other people acknowledge that. And so when I would do postings, I did it for the right reasons, but I also wanted affirmation, like, yeah, you're on track, bro. Hey, I'm so glad you're doing this. It feeds my ego.
Yes.
I mean, the bottom line is, my wife felt my phone was more important than her. That I was spending more time on my phone than I was with her. That when you wake up in the morning and instead of rolling over and acknowledging your bride, you roll the other way to check your phone. That's how it affected our marriage.